Hi everyone, welcome to week 5. This is Gary. We're going to review the templates for this week. By far, this is probably going to be the most difficult week that you'll have. There's a lot of information. We have 2 chapters that we need to cover, chapters 5 and 6. There's a lot of information in those chapters, so I strongly recommend, as I always do, that you read the chapters. If you do not read these chapters, you're really going to struggle with these homework problems. So please read the chapters carefully and thoroughly. So let's take a look. I'm gonna be splitting this up into different videos because there's so much in here, and there's a time constraint on each of these videos. So I'm gonna split these up into a few different videos. But the first video that we're gonna do will be touching on the first problem, P5-31. It's the only problem that you have out of chapter 5. And then in this video also, I'll be taking a look at P6-33. Requirement 1. So let's first take a look at P5-31. It's pretty straightforward. You're simply going to be doing journal entries, just like you've done in previous weeks. But these journal entries have to do with purchases and sales and how that affects our inventory. So make sure that you read, again, the chapter. Specifically, make sure that you read very carefully the parts of the chapters that have to do with objectives. Learning objective 1, 2, and 3. And that's how we record purchases and how we record sales, as well as the discounts and allowances that we have. So make sure you read those carefully and do the journal entries. They give examples, very clear set examples in the reading. And the available accounts are going to be listed over here. So you do not want to make up your own accounts. Choose them from the ones that I provide for you. So make sure you use these available accounts that are listed in this column on the right, because these are the ones that you'll be using for your journal entries. So again, just make sure you read carefully, especially objectives 1, 2, and 3 of chapter 5, and do the journal entries for this problem. And that's pretty much all I can tell you and help you along in P5-31. So let's go on to P6-33, requirement 1. What we're doing here is we're going to be taking a look at how we determine and value our inventory. So what we're doing here is we're making believe we're a merchandising inventory. So let's think about Walmart, a retail store that all of us are familiar with. So if you keep in mind that Walmart does not actually make their own products. They purchase those products from wholesalers at a certain cost. And then what they do is they apply a markup when they sell them to customers, right? But we have to keep in mind that for every product that they sell, they have paid a certain unit cost in order to get that unit in their stores, all right? So what we're looking at is the 3 different ways we value inventory, that we determine a set value for the inventory. And those 3 different methods are what is called FIFO, LIFO, and weighted average. FIFO and LIFO are acronyms, and FIFO stands for first in, first out. LIFO stands for last in, first out. And then there is weighted average, which is exactly what the title implies, is that you take an average and you weight them. So we'll see as we go along, because I'm going to be giving you an example of each of those. So let's first take a look at P6-33, requirement 1. And as you can see, we have this table that you're going to be filling out, and we have 3 different categories. We have purchases, we have cost of goods sold, and we have inventory on hand. So purchases are those things, those products that, let's say Walmart, purchases from wholesalers in order to sell in their stores. Now, inventory on hand is just what it says. What is the inventory of those products that Walmart has in their store? And then cost of goods sold is an expense item. And it's an expense item because, and think of the term, cost of goods sold. So the goods that Walmart ends up selling, they sell it at a markup, but what did it cost them to purchase that product to get into their store? Okay, that is cost of goods sold. And in each of these categories, purchases, cost of goods sold, and inventory on hand, you'll see you have a column for quantity, unit cost, and then total cost. And what I want to point out, so purchases, you put the unit cost of what the company purchased that product for. How much did it cost them per unit to purchase that unit. The cost of goods sold, I want to make very clear, because a lot of students make this mistake. In the unit cost, they will often put the selling price. This is incorrect. Do not use the selling price for the unit cost in cost of goods sold. I know that that can be deceiving because you're thinking you're selling the product, but the key word there is cost. What was the cost for those goods that they sold? What did it cost, let's say for instance Walmart, what did it cost them to purchase that unit that they would then later apply a markup to? All right, so what we're concerned about here in the unit cost is the cost to the company to purchase those units, not the selling price. So let me reiterate again, do not put the selling price here. It will mess up all of your tables and you'll get a very low grade in this homework assignment. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. And I'm following very closely to the example that's in the book. I'm just changing the numbers. So it tells us that on 8-1 we have a certain quantity, a certain inventory on hand. And again, I'm changing the numbers. So let's say for the purposes of this example that on hand on August 1st, we have 40 units that cost us to purchase those units $10 per unit. So we would have a total cost here of $400. That's what we have on hand. That's what we start with. Now on August 3rd, it says that we sold 20 of those units. So we can skip over the purchases because we didn't purchase anything on the 3rd. We have sold 20 of these 40 items that we have on hand. So we would put in quantity of 20. What was the unit cost of what we purchased those units at? It was $10. Makes no difference what we sold them at. So the total cost would be $200. So what do we have left on hand? Well, if we started out with 40 and we sold 20, on hand now we're going to have 20 units, still at the $10, and the total cost would be, $200. If I hesitate, it's because I'm looking at my paper and making sure that I'm putting the numbers in correctly. Okay, so on August 8th, it says that we have purchased units. We've purchased 30 more units, but this time as the company, let's say Walmart, we can no longer get those at $10. Now they're $15 that we have to buy them for. So we've bought 30 more of those units at $15 for a total of $450. We haven't sold anything, so we can skip over the cost of goods sold. So now what do we have on hand? Well, we have 20 of the original at $10 each, but now we've purchased 30 more at $15 each for $450 altogether, giving us a total inventory on hand of $650. Now let's jump ahead to the 21st, where we have sold a total of 40 units. Now this is where the different methods come into play. So here we're talking about FIFO, which is first in, first out. Now when we sold the items up here on the 3rd, we didn't have to worry about first in, first out because we only had that quantity on hand of 40. So that's what we sold it out of. But now that we're selling 40 more units, if you look, what we have on hand is we have two different categories of prices. We have some that were purchased at $10 originally, and then those that we later purchased at $15. So if we have sold 40 units, first in, first out says that we first have to get rid of the ones that came in first, those ones that we had on hand. So our cost of goods sold, we're going to take 20 units at the $10 for $200, and then the other 20 are going to come out of the batch that cost us $15. That's $300. That would be a total of $500. This was the cost of goods that we sold. So we sold 40 of them, but what did it cost us? What was the expense to us for those units that we have now sold? So again, we haven't taken into account the selling price. We care about what was the cost that it cost the company to purchase those goods. First in, first out says that you value them by first taking what from the ones that came in first, and then the ones that came in later. So first in, first out. So now what do we have left on hand? Well, we sold the 20 at 10. We got rid of those completely, so we have none left. We sold 20 of the 30 at 15. So we have 10 left at $15. So our inventory on hand is now 150. Okay? Now on the 30th, it says that we have purchased 10 more units, but now the cost has gone up again. It's $20 per unit. So our total cost for that purchase is $200. We haven't sold anything, so we can skip over the cost of goods sold. But what do we have left on hand? Well, we still have the 10 units that are at $15 for 150. But we also have these 10 that we just purchased at $20 for 200. That leaves us with a total of $350 on hand. The last row that you want to complete is your totals. And all you have to put in here is the number of units and the dollar amount. So we purchased a total, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. We purchased a total of 40 units for $650 altogether. What did we sell? We sold a total of 60 units at a total of $700 of what it cost us. What do we have left on hand? We have 20 units altogether for a total value of $350. Okay? So that's how we fill out the table. I've just gone through an example of FIFO, first in, first out. So I know I've said this repeatedly, but just it bears repeating. The unit cost when you're determining cost of goods sold is what did we purchase the item for, not what we sold it for. So please do not use the selling price here. And then we're going to keep track of the inventory on hand. And whenever we sell an item like we did here, under FIFO, we want to take first from the older units, the older purchases. And so that we would take first in, first out. Okay, so I hope that explained first in, first out. The next video is going to be covering P6-33, requirement 2, which goes into LIFO. Thank you.